Hello, my Ash Wings. It is such a pleasure to see you all here. Now, look, I'm alive. I'm healthy. I may apparently. My roommate has told me that I look like I lost weight in my face. So, yeah, don't get sick, folks. Make sure to stay vaccinated. That is what we do. Go get your flu shots. Go get your updated COVID vaccines. I'm saying it all. Anyway. Now that I'm better, I can finally find the time to talk about the thing that probably a lot of you are expecting some information on, or at least like wanting some more information on, maybe at least for my channel. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the bans that occurred way back in early March. So there was a ban list that occurred. Blitz got some stuff banned. Electromagnetic Somersault was restricted in Living Legend, and nothing happened in Classic Constructed. But I want to talk about the 4 cards that got touched on the ban list, starting with, well, first we'll just go over the list, right? We'll go over the list of what is banned, so that way you can get your information, get in, get out. And if you want to learn a little bit more about why these are impactful bans and unbans to the commoner format, then go ahead and continue watching the video, right? But if you are just looking to figure out what got banned and what did not, I'll have the ban list in the link in the description below, so you can go ahead and check that out as well for yourself to kind of learn a little bit about why these things were banned or unbanned. So we had 3 cards that were banned, 1 card that was unbanned. The 3 cards that were banned were Zephyr Needle, to nobody's surprise, Waning Moon, and Rosetta Thorn. 3 weapons were banned in Commoner in the same time. And the 1 card that was unbanned was none other than one of the very first cards banned in Commoner, Ball Lightning. So Ball Lightning is now unbanned, and Waning Moon, Rosetta Thorn, and Zephyr Needle are all banned. Now, Zephyr Needle held a little bit of a spot simply because with Ira and Pick Up the Point. Pick Up the Point is a new card that came out of the Hunted, and with the ability to recur something as powerful as a Zephyr Needle, the card's effectively banned in like every format now. It's banned in Blitz, it's banned in CC, it's banned in Commoner. The only ones that it's not banned in is UPF and the Living Legend format, right? But outside of that, Zephyr Needle being able to be recurred back into a equipment slot is kind of not the initial purpose of Zephyr Needle. Zephyr Needle is a really powerful card to send as an attack for a cheap cost, and its drawback is that it can be destroyed. But with cards being able to bring it back from the grave to re-equip it to your hero's weapon slots, even in Commoner, it's a little too much and can cause a little bit of an issue, because you figure if Ira's going to play something like Red Pick Up the Point after having a Zephyr Needle destroyed, she can pitch a blue to get her Zephyr Needle back when she attacks for 3 with, because Red Pick Up the Point is 3 attack with Go Again. You pay a resource to get your Zephyr Needle back. You then have your second attack be Zephyr Needle, which then comes in for 3, which means your opponent needs to have D-React in order for them, or a block card, in order for them to destroy their Zephyr Needle again. And then they get to use another free floating resource to do whatever the hell they want with the rest of their turn. So it slightly raised the ceiling for the damage potential for Ira, which of course isn't great because Ira was already like top of the leaderboard. And so seeing that get a hit is a good call, right? Because now Pick Up the Point doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to play Pick Up the Point in a deck that isn't using Zephyr Needle, because in most cases you're probably not recurring a whole bunch of things there. Syndra might still use it, and honestly probably heroes like Arachne Web of Deceit might still use Pick Up the Point, but of course they're using them with their own daggers to bring them back and not things like Zephyr Needle. I'd say the only really big thing about the another hit is that like Benji, I guess, utilized Zephyr Needle pretty well, but if I'm going to be honest, like you're probably just running Kodachis with him anyway, so not really a big game changer of a thing there. Benji was never the top ninja anyway, so playing him without Zephyr Needle, not the end of the world. Then let's move into Rosetta Thorn. So Rosetta Thorn got banned. Obviously, Chain had his time in the sun for a really, really long time. Briar also theoretically was utilizing things like Rosetta Thorn in her builds as well. And I would imagine Viserai probably started using it too once Rosetta came out and they got all these cool new things to play, such as things like Rune Rager Swarm and Deadwood Dirge and all these other stuff. So I would say in that situation, Rosetta Thorn leaving obviously affects Chain the most. The reason Rosetta Thorn is leaving, or at least like the reason I think it's okay that it's leaving, is because of the fact that whenever you go into a Runeblade, right, in most cases, you expect there to be 1 point of arcane damage that you can disrupt or prevent, I should say, with Arcane Barrier, simply because they're not utilizing more than 1 point of arcane damage per, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Per attack, right? You have Rune Chants, which come in as individual attacks of 1 point of arcane damage. In most cases, you have a bunch of attack actions that only really come in for 1 point of arcane damage. So AB1 is normally what you run into a Runeblade. But with Rosetta Thorn, you almost had to run AB2. I don't know too many people who were, but running AB2 is almost the better bet there. That's simply because with AB2, you can go ahead and pitch for the Rosetta Thorn. You can pitch a blue to AB2 the Rosetta Thorn damage, since Rosetta Thorn comes in for 2 physical and 2 arcane. So AB1 would only be able to block out 1 point of that arcane. It would leak 1 point of damage through. But then you'd have to block the physical. It's a very, very powerful weapon. Paying 1 resource for 4 damage is, it's technically on rate, but it's split. So it's kind of like 4.5 damage, because you have to block with 2 cards in a way, 1 for the arcane and then 1 for the physical. So it's really, really powerful. And I'm happy to see that it's gone, actually. I don't think it's a necessary card to have in a thing like Commoner. And more specifically, I think, again, to everybody's knowledge, is that Rosetta Thorn being banned quite literally just goes to show that it was a really powerful piece of equipment in that format. Being able to go 2 and 2, especially in Chain, where you go, non-attack action, Soul Shackle, attack action, Snapdragon Scalers, Rosetta Thorn. That's a lot of value for like nothing. So, it's probably going to be a pretty easy swap for a lot of heroes. I feel like this is the same thing that happened when Briar left CC. You're expected to have the same cost equipment, so something that costs 1 resource, but then, you're able to follow that up with it. Reaping Blade is a great choice. It comes in for 3 damage and it prevents both heroes from healing. So if you are playing against a hero that does like to do a little bit of health regeneration, whether it be like a Sunkissed Moonwish Kano or some crazy weird life gain deck from Verdance or Florian, I would say that Reaping Blade's a great choice there. And then on top of it, if you're playing Chain, you can theoretically also just play Galaxy Black. Galaxy Black is Chain's signature weapon. It effectively comes in for 3 damage. And like if you've dealt, you deal an arcane damage if it hits or something of the sort. It's right here on the screen. You'll see it here. But Galaxy Black is a fine one for Chain. Outside of that, though, I think Reaping Blade's probably going to be the next best bet, since Chain doesn't care about healing. So being able to send 1 resource 3 damage is pretty good. Next one we are talking about is probably, at least personally, what I think is the biggest change to happen in Commoner in a long while, and it is the banning of Waning Moon. Now, Kano had gotten a lot of really cool stuff in Rosetta, specifically for their deck. And then also on top of it, you have Icelander, who has utilized both of these heroes, the best wizards in the format, and they both use Waning Moon. Because Waning Moon is incredibly good. Being able to play a card on your opponent's turn and then also follow it up with 3 damage from Waning Moon is a lot of damage to block out, and it really disrupts your opponent's turn, especially when you're dealing in a 20 life format, right? Kano and Icelander both having less life. They are able to do those fun like shenanigans of that playing cards on your opponent's turn. Therefore, it makes for the Waning Moon weapon to just be the best one in slot. Being able to pay 1 resource to attack with a blue, a blue ice arcane spell in your arsenal give your opponent a Frostbite, and then also follow it up with the remaining 2 resources to swing Waning Moon. A lot of value in that regard, and that's what made Iyslander as strong as she was in the format. The only downfall now is that there's no Waning Moon, which means that now when you think about what you're going to do in Commoner for Iyslander, what do you swap Waning Moon for? What do you swap it for? Because I think Kano is fine to even move to Crucible, right? Because Kano being able to play Crucible of Aetherweave, I mean, effectively, it's just being able to pump up a card with Surge, play something like Overflow the Aetherwell, and be able to do those crazy shenanigans. But Iyslander now has nearly no follow-up, right? She can only play cards at instant speed from her arsenal, and only if they are blue. It's the only time she can play them at instant speed. Kano has to pitch a blue in order for him to get a card from the top of his deck into the Banished Zone to then play at instant speed. So the amount of the ability in order to make that change is, Kano's still doing the Kano things. He just can't follow it up with a Waning Moon. Iyslander quite literally loses 2 to 3 points of damage just like off rip. So now if Iyslander comes in for a Ice Bolt for 2, it's usually followed up with a Waning Moon for 3 and giving a Frostbite. Turns out though, you can't do that now. You cannot do that now. Like now it's just 2 arcane damage, maybe 3 if they play Aetherweave to pump it up to 3, and you just AB3, your opponent passes, right? You don't do anything else with your opponent's turn. The Wounded Bull opportunities are still there, right? Findell's Fighting Spirit, Wounded Bull, Scar for Scars, and all this stuff. Like, you're still able to make things like that happen in that deck just because you do have less life than your opponent, but Iyslander just does not do the same. Like, Waning Moon really was where her chip damage potential was, and now she kind of can't really explode. She gets to do things like, you can still play things like Snapback, which I think, honestly, if there was a card that I would have gotten rid of in Commoner, it would have been Snapback. I think Snapback would have been the card to get rid of in Commoner and not Waning Moon at all. I think Waning Moon still would have allowed for a lot of great play patterns to happen in both Kano and Iyslander, and allowed them to keep somewhat of an identity without having to have things like Snapback. But Snapback didn't get hit. Waning Moon got hit instead. Rough time for everybody. So I don't know where Iyslander is going to sit. Honestly, she's kind of like B, almost C tier at this point. I think a lot of people who really like the disruption that Iyslander was able to give is now going to go over and play something like maybe Oldhim, because Oldhim at least has the defense reaction capability through their hero power, and then Guardian just gets a fridge of things to do and present things. So who knows what's going to happen there, but I'm very curious to see where the switch happens. But yeah, then the unbanning of Ball Lightning is kind of crazy too, right? Every hero that has the ability to use the Lightning talent is now able to use Ball Lightning. That's Acilio, Aurora, Briar, and that's it. Lexi. Those 4 heroes now have the ability to play more Ball Lightning, right? Cheerios Briar is back on the menu. Ball Lightning Lexi is back on the menu. And then you also have, Aurora's probably going to utilize Ball Lightning a lot. I don't know so much about Acilio. You could probably make that work in Acilio just because you're also kind of like probably playing a bunch of non-attack. You're playing a bunch of lightning cards to pump up Volzar and then activate Volzar to swing a really big, attack. I don't know what the plan is there, but that is a thing. So yeah, it's nice to see it unbanned. I feel like we have enough heroes in the format that are very defensive by nature. And so being able to add in things like Ball Lightning is really good. You do also have to remember, Ball Lightning doesn't block. So much like Fry, Ball Lightning here, as you can tell, has a big fat 0 as its defense value, which means that you can defend with it, right? If you need to get a card out of your hand, you can. But Ball Lightning does not have a defense value, which means that while the amount of damage you're able to pump through with something like Ball Lightning, being able to pump up a whole bunch of these, stack damage effects, if your opponent can just block really well, not really very effective. And then not to mention the fact that if you're going to stack a whole deck of Ball Lightning and your opponent's going to come in for 8 to 12 damage on one attack, like a Guardian or something, and you can't block it, you just have to take that damage and pass, which is very aggro, as this card is a very aggro heavy card. So you're going to see it a lot in like aggro heavy Briar decks, aggro heavy Aurora decks. You're going to see it in there. But I don't know that with how Flesh and Blood has evolved, I don't think that Ball Lightning is going to actually present a level of hardship for the format. I think if anything, certain heroes are going to be able to utilize this a little bit more. Obviously, with Iyslander not really being a thing right now, at least from what I can tell, she's not going to be. With Ball Lightning just being able to get free reign to like slam a whole bunch of them down, it's pretty good, but setup is really hard to do in Commoner. You do only have like 20 or less life. And then not to mention the fact that the red only comes in for 3, which means if your opponent plays something like a blue Ball Lightning or a yellow Ball Lightning, you can block it with pieces of armor. You can block it with, obviously a card from hand, and blocking the Ball Lightning isn't terrible. Honestly, even if you just like let the first Ball Lightning go and then block the rest of the turn, you're in a pretty good spot. It's just not very effective, at least from what I can tell. Obviously, I haven't got blown out by Ball Lightning in ever, so I'm not too sure on its actual true values, but I do know the fact that it pumps up arcane damage, it pumps up physical damage if it hits. So there's all this additional stuff that happens with Ball Lightning. But to see it back is very good. I almost think I would have rather seen, I don't know. Belittle would have been a very interesting unban. I'm kind of happy that we don't see Belittle unbanned. But seeing Ball Lightning unbanned is, I think maybe just because Lightning heroes weren't really getting like their day in the sun. And this is an opportunity to bring it back and see. This could just be like a test thing. They've said in their article for the unban that they're going to obviously keep their eye on it. And by keep their eye on it, I'm assuming they're just going to see what heroes win the gold foil events at this point. But yeah, so that's kind of what we're working with here with that. But overall, like, how does the meta change, right? Quick little rundown of effectively what it was previously is Ira, Iyslander, Dash, Enigma, Chain, and I guess like in theory Oldhim were all kind of up there, right? These are the 6 heroes that were up there that were like really, really big into the format. Now Iyslander way down. Chain, not really much has changed there. The chip damage is worse now, but Chain is still able to send like something like 14 plus damage in a turn on like a good Soul Shackle turn. So, I mean, Chain's still able to destroy Soul Shackles to create Rune Chance and then Rune Gate cards from his Banish Zone. I mean, like, there's just a whole lot. There's a whole lot that could happen there. But it is not as detrimental. If anything, he got better because, again, Iyslander's gone. So now the cost reduction effects of like a Frostbolt or an Ice Bolt, or even just like having to pay for arcane damage on your turn is like gone. It's nowhere near as threatening. So now that's out of the water. And then you have Ira, who had still been at the top, but now they just don't have Zephyr Needle, but they were already doing really, really good without Zephyr Needle. So I think just like they take out the pick up the points, they go back to their Tiger builds, and they just continue to do like very well done value stuff for the deck. And then, so Iyslander being gone, really, I think you're looking at significantly more like aggro heavy decks moving up, but you're also going to see a lot more Guardian, a lot more like heavy defensive builds. So I think honestly, Icelander leaving just kind of keeps it at a top 5, with it being Oldhim, Dash, Enigma, Chain, and Ira being at your top 5 still. That's my fair take on it. I'm pretty sure that I, along with many other commoner folks, could say the same. It's a very easy understanding of the meta itself and what has changed. You might see more warriors move up to the top too. Fang might actually do pretty well in this regard now that you don't have to worry about paying for a lot of arcane. I'd imagine, and if I'm going to be entirely honest, you might still see Kanos at the top tables, just simply because people are probably, with the Waning Moon ban, they're probably going to disrespect arcane. Obviously keeping one AB in there for Chain is fine, but keeping AB3 and also 2 Oasis Respite might be something that a lot of heroes move away from with the change of the Waning Moon ban. If that does happen, Kano gets to run rampant, and that is obviously going to be a completely different thing. Don't let me be the person to tell you, but don't ever count out wizards. Don't ever do it. I know it might seem rough that Waning Moon not being here anymore. You're probably not going to see too many wizards, but the second you tech your whole deck and you remove the Oasis Respite and you remove AB3 and you go into that Commoner Gold Foil event and lo and behold, you get paired up into a Kano, you are going to regret every decision you make from that point forward. So I do recommend that that you make sure to still respect arcane damage, especially with Open the Floodgates being a card in Commoner. I don't know if you're aware, for those of you who might not have never played into a Kano before, Kano can pump this up to 2 with with Crucible of Aetherweave, hit themselves for 2 damage and draw 2 cards. That's pretty good. Keep that in mind when you are looking at this stuff. I do think that Kano still has quite a bit of viability in the format, but of course, that's just because Kano has the ability to play on your opponent's turn at a better rate than Icelander does, especially with Waning Moon being gone. So, anywho, that's it. That's kind of everything that I'm expecting to see from this change in the meta. Not anything insane. If we start seeing a hero in the top tables again for their like immediate power level of Commoner, it might be Cheerios Briar coming back with Ball Lightning. I think she's significantly better than Aurora, just because on hit you get an Embodiment of Earth token, and that's just better. But Aurora can utilize it very well too if you're looking to do it on Aurora. I know like people have been teching with Acilio with it too, and I don't know whether or not that's the correct move, but Acilio can utilize it. And I know that Death Dealer Lexi with Ball Lightning was a pretty big deal, so curious to see if we're going to have that happen as well. But that's it for me. I've rambled too long on Commoner. I just wanted everybody to be aware of the situation and kind of like just let me know what you think your comments are. Like, what are your comments in the comment section below? I'd love to hear from you guys and see exactly how you feel about these changes. I know there are a lot of people who came to play Commoner because they liked playing Icelander as like a near replica of her Blitz self, and now you can't. So I'm curious if that's going to have some people move away from the format, maybe even move away from the class altogether. Then, of course, on top of that, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button down below. You can subscribe to the channel as well if you have not already for more Commoner content. I'm planning to make a little bit more changes, and dang it, I'm so mad because I just got all my stuff set up for my Commoner battle box, and guess what? They hit this ban list like 3 days after I got my Commoner battle box all figured out, and so now I have to change like everything about 3 of the decks. I have to take Icelander out, probably keep Kano in and let Kano continue to play as the premier wizard for the format. And then I got to add like Ball Lightning into some heroes. I got to make like this, that, and the other. So it's going to be a lot. But keep an eye out for a Commoner Battle Box video here soon. I'm hoping to do a nice like overlook of what the Battle Box looks like, how you get it set up, what you need to buy for it. And then you're pretty much good to go from there. But anywho, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below. And you know what? Remember to always have fun in the flesh and blood. That's just how it is. Always remember that this is a game, and you are playing this game to escape the dark chokehold of reality that we all have to live through. And just remember to have fun. That's what it's all about, is having fun. It's not about being the best. It's not about having the best cards. It's about having fun in the flesh and blood. And I hope you all continue to have that. So thank you all so much. And I look forward to seeing you all in our next video.